Everybody, I'm Greg Abrahamian. I'm a CRA delegate. I'm an immigration activist, and we've got Kevin Kiley. He's running for governor. We hope to unseat Governor Newsom. But Kevin, as you know, that we have a big border crisis right now. We've got over 200,000 illegal aliens per month rushing across our border. Drug cartels are taking control of our borders, bringing drugs in. COVID is coming in through these illegal aliens coming in. They're not being screened. We're on target for 2 million to be coming in this year. Vast majority will be applying for asylum. The vast majority will be rejected because they do not qualify. If you're governor, how can you handle this for California? Do you have any thoughts on this problem?
I do, and I would do everything I can to try to staunch the flow of, exactly what you just talked about. I mean, it's just, a complete disaster what we're seeing. And just take fentanyl for one example, and the tragedy that that's inflicting on communities across the state. So California, obviously, it's the change in the federal administration that has caused the main source of this problem. But California has been extremely unhelpful in what we've done as a state. My first year in the legislature, California passed the sanctuary state law, which I fought against in every way I could. I in fact, eventually did succeed in getting Eric Holder fired, who was brought in to try to push the sanctuary state law, unbelievably enough. And so we need to get rid of that, as well as a lot of the other just terrible laws we have that make it more difficult for both our authorities at the state and federal level to keep our communities safe. I mean, the important thing to note about sanctuary state is the only people that bill applies to and protects is people who are both here illegally and have committed or been detained for a criminal offense. And so this was a law that specifically targeted and protected criminals, and it's been a total impediment to a lot of folks in law enforcement to be able to have the proper channels of communication with the federal immigration authorities in order to keep the worst offenders out of our communities. And so I would absolutely do everything I could to roll back that law, and if the legislature wasn't willing to do that, to at least mitigate some of the most harmful consequences of it. I'll also say that California has continued to expand benefits in a way that no other state has. The $267 billion budget that Gavin Newsom just signed. I mean, think about that number, by the way, $267 billion. That's more than doubled in about a decade, well over doubled. Huge expansion in Medi-Cal for the undocumented immigrant population. And so that is just creating more and more of an incentive for these border crossings. And then when you don't have any real border security, it's like a recipe for disaster.
Right, you're talking about the magnets. But just specifically, what type of action would you do to help California deal with this situation? Can you name some legislation or executive action that you would take, just so that the voters would understand what specific action you're considering?
Well, sure. I mean, I certainly wouldn't sign a budget that any of those sort of benefits that I was just talking about.
Okay.
I would take whatever action I could to mitigate the impact of the sanctuary state law and other sanctuary policies.
How about the way in LA County they don't allow ICE in our prisons anymore? Would you change that and allow ICE?
Well, that's the sanctuary state practice.
Yes.
That's the whole idea, is they say that we're not going to allow ICE anywhere near our facilities, and we're not even going to let the law enforcement in the area communicate with ICE to let them know, Guess what? We have someone who is a serious criminal who is also here illegally. But no, you're not allowed to tell ICE about that. So absolutely, I would stop that.
Okay, did you hear that, everybody? Am I correct? You're saying that you would put ICE back in our prisons?
I would do everything I could to restore the proper channels of communication that were always there prior to this radical experiment in sanctuary policies. Yes.
Okay. One last question, if I may. You're in the Assembly?
Correct.
AB 1096. Are you familiar with it?
Remind me. There's a lot of bills.
They took out the word. It's part of Biden's effort. They're removing the word alien in our code. And how did you vote on that, and what's your position on that?
I'd have to look at it. It might have just gone through on the consent agenda. I don't remember exactly, but there's a lot of these bills to tweak the language and so forth, and sometimes you have to pick your battles, so I don't know if there was a huge amount of opposition to that came out because it doesn't matter. It's just changing a word. But there is some of this stuff that's done that is just actually really ridiculous, the way the language is sort of used to conjure up a different reality and to sometimes try to change the way we think about things, and in some cases it actually has serious legal implications as well. So I think you're right to be looking at something like that with some skepticism.
Okay, did you hear that? He's saying skepticism, but listen, I want to thank Kevin Kiley for running. He's providing choice to California voters, and I really want to thank you for speaking with me, and thank you for running.
You bet. Thanks very much.